Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jay, and I am a terminally online historian who likes looking at the news, seeing what's going on, and I have opinions on them as well. So, that said, let's get into it with our first story for the week ending on September the 7th, 2025. And that was just over a week ago, Xi Jinping of China, Prime Minister Modi of India, and Vladimir Putin of Russia had a meeting in Beijing, and it looks like India is opening up relations with them. I'm not sure if it's militarily yet at this stage, but definitely India is shifting a lot of its economic alliances over to China and Russia. And what this is, honestly, it's a bit of a blow to the American foreign policy because it looks like it has lost the initiative in regards to India to China. And I should also note, Russia and China have been allies for decades, and while India the past couple of decades has been gravitating more toward the so-called Western nations, also such as the EU, United States, also Japan and ASEAN nations. This is definitely a reversal, and this is a direct result of the lack of confidence by Modi and his government in U.S. power. So this could be concerning if war breaks out with China and either over Taiwan or because of all the issues in the South China Sea. So it's very concerning because a lot of shipping to the EU from China goes right through by India, and India can not just be used as a staging point on the Western approaches to China, but it also can help with a distance blockade, preventing shipping and especially oil to China, as China is so heavily reliant on international trade for not just exporting materials that it makes, but also importing materials and oil that it needs to what do you call those items. Another thing related to China, and I know a lot of folks on Twitter and threads were kind of getting their panties in a bunch over this, is China's World War II victory parade. Yes, it did show off a lot of new PLA weapons systems, including hypersonic missiles, air carrier-based fighter planes, new anti-ship missiles, tanks, and of course new atomic weapons. And so, first and foremost, while I'm sure all the intelligence agencies around the world have information about all of this stuff, but they're keeping it classified. So to at this stage, we don't know what the actual capability of this weaponry is, and it actually also still has to be proven in a combat situation. And since China's last war was invasion of Vietnam almost 50 years ago, China just does not know if it's going to work in combat, and that's really is the true test of any weapon system, is how well they do in combat. And as I mentioned last month, there's all that corruption in the PLA and the PLAN, and so I do have concerns about whether these new weapon systems are even ready to be used. And I will admit, yes, these weapon systems that you saw on the parade, yes, were there. These are most likely not the finalized actual platforms that be used in combat. These ones were built and will solely be used for military parades. These totalitarian and communist regimes, such as under Xi and Putin, they love throwing these annual parades every year. Russia has theirs on May the 8th every year, and they have dedicated units that all they do is march in parades, and they have dedicated equipment that all they do is parades, which is completely different than what we do over here in the United States. And if our service members have to be a part of a parade, they're just not used to it. Yes, they can march. A lot of times, though, when they're in the parade, they'll be not marching in, to a cadence. They'll be doing something called a route step, in which they try to stay in step with each other, but it's a little more loose and it's much better for longer distance marching than marching in time. But China and Russia have a different approach with just dedicating units. That's why there's a difference. Anyway, more disturbing is over here in the United States is the August jobs report came out, and it's horrible. August only had 22,000 jobs that were added. Of course, Trump and all his delusions said that the real numbers will actually be released next August, and this is actually a direct result and a very, very quick result of the tariffs being placed by the Trump administration, which right now have been declared illegal by the Federal Court of Appeals, and will only be in effect until August 14th, October 14th, when that mandate comes down from that court, unless it's stayed by the Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court chooses to hear an appeal. But yes, so that's why not many jobs were added, and folks are starting to feel a little bit of pain everywhere. Even Amazon and Walmart are slowly raising some of the prices of their merchandise. And I think a really good way to understand what's going on with tariffs and how tariffs just get passed on to us, the consumer, and the businesses don't actually pay, is actually this week's South Park episode. The main story involved the character Butters. He has a crush on one of the kids there at South Park Elementary named Red, and all the girls at South Park Elementary are into these Labubus, and so it's a whole thing about price of Labubus going up because of the tariffs, and it's very funny. Don't worry, Trump gets mocked quite a bit, and actually does end up in South Park in a bit that's kind of reminiscent to Satan's Sweet 16 birthday episode almost 20 years ago. So it's pretty funny. So I do recommend watching it if you want a funny, vulgar understanding of how tariffs actually work. And next thing is Trump is definitely increasing his American military presence in the Caribbean, especially around Venezuela. Allegedly, this is an anti-drug trafficking operation. This past in using American naval vessels primarily for this. This past Wednesday, and quite shockingly, the United States Navy attacked and destroyed a boat with 11 individuals on board. They were allegedly smuggling drugs or allegedly Trinidad aguas, depending on who you talk to. There are rumors that the attack was actually authorized by Donald Trump Jr. and not the president nor the Secretary of State, who are the actual legal and constitutionally approved authorities that can do that. But if that does turn out to be the case after we get an Inspector General into the Pentagon that is not a crony, then I hope that if that's the case, Donald Trump Jr. gets prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And it looks like because of all this uptick in military operations in the Caribbean, it looks like the United States is actually ignoring the bigger threat that we discuss, it seems like almost on a weekly basis, from Russia and China, and dealing with this really relatively minor issue of drug trafficking. This should not be handled by the military. They're not trained for that. They're trained to go fight and win wars. They are not law enforcement. This needs to be handled by the Coast Guard, the DEA, the Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, and of course their respective counterparts in each of these Latin American nations. And next, back to Ukraine. I know I'm bouncing around a little this week, and Ukraine has hit the largest Russian oil refinery just in the last couple days. It's located in a place known as Ryazan, and is owned by Rosneft, which is another company like Gazprom that produces oil. And what's interesting in this was a very long-range attack by Ukraine to hit this oil refinery, because it is located 180 kilometers southeast of Moscow. So it's pretty deep in. And I haven't gotten updated figures, because this will affect the production capacity of Russia, but it looks like they are for sure down at least 20% of capacity, and it looks like it's growing. I did see that there are more and more fuel shortages happening in Russia, particularly in the rural areas, and Putin was forced this week to admit that there are shortages of fuel in Russia, and that is a situation that they're trying to figure out either what to do, or if they need to or if Putin will be forced to sue for peace with Ukraine. And finally, the Trump administration, especially the Department of Justice, is looking to ban gun ownership for transgendered folks, regardless of whether they have one already or not. They are unfortunately using that recent school shooting in Minnesota last week as pretense, and they're claiming that transgender folks like myself are suffering from a mental disease. First and foremost, gender dysphoria it does happen. It is recognized by the American Psychological Association, and it being a mental disease is not what it says in the DSM, with the Diagnostics and Statistics Manual, which is basically a psychologist and psychiatrist's Bible on what mental health issues may arise in a person. Interesting enough, once the Trump administration made this announcement, the pro-gun lobby came out against this potential ban. The NRA and the Gun Owners Association of America have strongly stated that gun rights should not be restricted, regardless of what the person's gender identity is. And if somehow this goes into effect, which at this stage I highly doubt, but you never know, I expect there's going to be at least 4 or 5 lawsuits, one from the NRA, one from the Gun Owners Association of America, one from GLAAD, and also I'm expecting ACLU to join in. I'm expecting GLAAD and ACLU to file lawsuits based more on the 14th Amendment, which equal protection under law. And NRA is going to, and Gun Owners Association of America are going to be approaching it from a Second Amendment, and this one I expect to be a very interesting case should this ban go into effect. Hopefully it does not, because I know there are some trans individuals who feel like in this current environment that they do need to have some sort of weapon to protect themselves should something happen. With that, I wish I had any good news. Other than my alma mater, Missouri, beating Kansas yesterday in the first meetup in 14 years, and that rivalry, and that is still going strong despite the break. And so with that, that's everything I got for the week. I hope you liked it. Please subscribe if you haven't. Share this with someone you think who would like it. If you comment, please be kind to each other. And I will see y'all next week. Bye-bye.